You're saying, I think the number of people that have been arrested for just social media posts is bananas. It's in the thousands.
Yes, several thousand people have been given prison sentences in the UK for social media posts where there was no explicit link to actual violence, but they just said it encouraged violence. I'm like, well, did anyone actually do anything as a result of that media post? Well, no. But they're just, and then they have a prison overcrowding situation in the UK, so they're quite literally releasing convicted and putting people in jail for Facebook posts.
Keir Starmer thought he could quietly clamp down on free speech until Elon Musk and Joe Rogan lit him up like a Christmas tree in July. Now the internet's most unfiltered duo are peeling back the curtain on Starmer's bizarre censorship crusade. And trust us, it's weirder than a Musk tweet at 2 a.m. If you thought British politics was boring, think again. This showdown is part sci-fi, part stand-up, and 100% jaw-dropping. You won't believe what they just exposed.
So appeals to their citizens. That's the thing. The citizens say, this is the way we want our government to talk.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because a lot of people on, there's a lot of people on social media right now going, oh my God, you don't realize how hated, you are now as Americans, and the U.S. is so hated. And I think, I spent most of my time overseas, right? And most people are going, yeah, it seems like it's common sense.
Keir Starmer must have thought he could slip into number 10 without anyone noticing the trail of shredded civil liberties he's left like confetti across the UK. The man speaks like a dentist trying to explain a root canal. Is good for you. Calm, measured, vaguely threatening. And while most of the UK press is too busy pretending he's the human equivalent of a weighted blanket, Elon Musk and Joe Rogan decided to do what they do best: launch verbal grenades into the neatly arranged tea party of British politics.
I don't really have any comments on the particular comment that was made this morning by Musk. Thank you. On the question of Elon Musk, look, I think most people are more interested in what's going to happen to the NHS, frankly, than what's happening on Twitter. Those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible, they're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves. Those who are cheerleading Tommy Robinson, not interested in justice.
Let's start with the basics. Starmer, once the guy who campaigned for Remain, then didn't, then maybe did, but also didn't, has now graduated from indecisive Brexit whisperer to full-time manager of the United Kingdom's speech suppression department. No formal title, of course, but if they handed out gold stars for covertly steamrolling civil liberties, Starmer's fridge door would look like a kindergarten art exhibit.
You're seeing it now in England where people are getting arrested for tweets.
Yeah.
There's something like 4,000 people have been arrested in England where they've said things online that people find to be a hateful thing or a problematic thing. And I think it's only 200 in Russia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's backed laws that make it easier to arrest people for protesting too loudly, not aggressively, not violently, loudly. Apparently democracy is fine as long as it comes with a volume control. And Starmer's completely on board with digital speech regulation, because what's democracy without a healthy fear of your own browser history?
We must protect free speech, and free speech only matters, it's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like, because obviously speech that you like is, that's easy. The thing about censorship is that, sure, for those who would advocate it, just remember, at some point, that will be turned on you.
But just when it seemed like no one outside the UK noticed or cared, enter Elon Musk. Because of course it was Musk. The man could build a rocket that tweets about free speech mid-launch and still find time to call out a former barrister for playing authoritarian dress-up. Elon's been on a global tour of calling governments out for acting like clingy exes with censorship buttons. India, Germany, Brazil all received their fair share of Musk's lovingly condescending outrage. But when the UK decided to trot out something called the Online Safety Bill, essentially a cross between a surveillance wish list and a PR stunt, Elon perked up. You could almost hear the gears grinding in his head, which is impressive considering it's always running 10 startups at once. The UK's plan? Give the government the ability to define what's harmful online and then pressure platforms to remove it. Not illegal content, not criminal acts, just vague, squishy, feeling-hurting content. And who's quietly nodding along to all this behind a nice Labour-branded podium? Sir Keir, don't call me authoritarian unless it's accurate. Starmer. Elon naturally smelled the hypocrisy like a burnt circuit board. He's been championing Twitter, or X, or whatever it is now, as a haven of unfiltered discourse. And while that's debatable depending on which day of the week it is, Musk at least understands that letting governments dictate what people are allowed to read is a great way to speedrun a democracy into a PowerPoint slide about fascism.
Power, that's
what it is, and that's what people need to understand.
It's not rocket science.
It's not that the Europeans are the kinder, more progressive. No, this like they understand that it's coming.
Yeah.
And they want to do everything they can to stop it because most people are fed up.
Yeah.
Most people just want to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah.
Of course, Musk didn't mention Starmer by name. He didn't need to. The UK government's fingerprints are all over this slow-mo legislative dumpster fire. And Starmer? He's the guy holding the matches with an expression that says, "What fire? This is just controlled warmth." Meanwhile, in the smoky lair of podcasting enlightenment, Joe Rogan was revving up his own commentary engine. And if you thought Musk was subtle, Rogan approached the whole situation like a bear with a bullhorn in a yoga class. Rogan, who has made a career out of casually dismantling institutional nonsense between DMT anecdotes and elk meat recipes, didn't miss the UK's descent into protest jail and censorship Disney. It's like someone took Orwell's greatest hits and turned them into government policy. Except, instead of being scared, everyone's just mildly inconvenienced and terribly polite about it. During one of his rants, sandwiched between raving about cold plunges and protein absorption, Joe fixated on how the UK, of all places, has criminalised peaceful protest. That's right, the land of Shakespeare, the Magna Carta, and people queuing for fun has decided that expressing discomfort with royal ceremonies or climate doom-scrolling is now a matter of law enforcement.
They want Elon Musk gone, X turned off, and freedom of speech stamped out. Starmer himself has said he's going to look at social media laws in the wake of the riots and even revisit the Online Safety Act. And right on cue, of course, the Westminster elite are now circling. Guardian columnists got their knickers in a twist, saying Musk should be on trial in the UK for inciting the riots. And Keir Starmer's champagne socialist biographer, Tom Baldwin, called for regulation of social media platforms, even saying free speech was not absolute.
And let's be honest, Joe Rogan talking about British laws is a bit like watching a golden retriever learn calculus, but that's exactly what makes it great. It's raw, it's unscripted, it's a headlock of truth delivered through the microphone of a man who still doesn't fully trust soy milk. The punchline? Both Musk and Rogan separately, without even planning it, managed to make Keir Starmer look like the school principal who cancels recess because one kid whispered a naughty word. Starmer's entire brand has been about restoring order and being the adult in the room. But if being an adult means approving legislation that lets police detain you for holding up a sign too close to a road, then congratulations, you've just matured into a satire of leadership. Musk's angle was all about digital tyranny, the idea that the internet, once the last refuge of the unfiltered human experience, is being scrubbed clean by bureaucrats with thesauruses full of synonyms for harmful. And when a nation like the UK starts legislating feelings, Musk knows it's time to start buying servers in space. Rogan's was more primal. He didn't need to understand every clause of the Public Order Act or the amendments to the Official Secrets Framework. He just needed to hear that someone got arrested for protesting the monarchy and immediately knew something reeked, probably of weak tea and stronger authoritarianism.
Doing it because they genuinely think this is a moral and ethical thing to do. They're doing it because they sense an uprising.
Yeah, and they rightly should. Look, Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, he's not getting reelected, and their election is coming up here shortly.
Yeah,
and so he's not. That's not going to happen for him. So I think they're not rightly, but they are concerned about
And the cherry on top, neither of them even had to say Starmer's name. That's how iconic his silence has become. Like Voldemort if he had a law degree and a knack for never answering direct questions. The synergy between Musk and Rogan here isn't just coincidence, it's a cultural Venn diagram where the middle says, stop pretending this is normal. One's a billionaire with the habit of tweeting out the internal monologue of a Bond villain. The other is a former UFC commentator turned philosopher shaman who accidentally became the voice of a generation. And yet both of them took one look at Britain's attempts to regulate speech and essentially said, is this some kind of joke? Or are we in a Black Mirror episode that never ends? Starmer, for his part, remains as responsive as a 2003 Nokia. His supporters will argue that the laws are nuanced, targeted and necessary. And they're right. If the goal is to make sure no one ever expresses an opinion near a police officer again, remember this is the same UK where someone once got arrested for silently praying near an abortion clinic. Not chanting, not holding a megaphone, thinking quietly. That's not public safety, that's thought policing with a British accent. And Starmer's Labour has been more than happy to ride the coattails of these moderate policies. Moderate in the way lukewarm soup is technically a meal.
The reason he trolls Keir Starmer is because Elon believes in free speech and Keir Starmer locks people up who say nasty things on Facebook. So that's the
Jackie, do you want to answer that?
No, yeah. He doesn't.
No, well, the justice system does. We've got two-tier care, we've got two-tier policing, and two-tier justice.
I'm sorry.
And that's where we are. No, it's awful.
You've done quite well, Nigel, and now you've reverted to sloganising.
Well, I'm sorry, but
it's not just about Musk or Rogan being loud. It's about the fact that increasingly the loudest defenders of liberty are the ones who aren't in government. While politicians like Starmer are busy rehearsing their next vague speech about stability, the tech moguls and podcasters are pointing at the emperor, noting quite accurately that he's wearing a surveillance wire. The British public, meanwhile, is stuck somewhere between mild concern and complete apathy. Because it's hard to get mad about free speech when you're busy trying to figure out how to afford heating and whether the lettuce will outlast your Prime Minister. But here's the thing, when two wildly different figures like Musk and Rogan, one from the lab, the other from the gym, start waving the red flag on UK democracy, it's not just noise, it's a siren. You don't need to agree with everything they say. Honestly, sometimes you'd have to take a sedative to get through an entire Musk thread or a full Rogan monologue without losing your grip on reality. But they're both tapping into something that the British establishment seems determined to ignore. Freedom isn't a PR campaign. It's messy, annoying, and occasionally involves someone yelling on a street corner about lizard people. But it's still better than a world where the government decides what tone of voice you're allowed to use.
Pressing free speech from all the various groups out there, including conservative groups, the far left, whatever, determining that, this type of speech is illegal. We're going to pursue you. We're going to fine you. We're going to jail you. Armed raids against people that are, pushing content online. So he made
including anti-immigrant content. Right?
Anti-immigrant content. But to be fair, right? I mean, most of Europe at this point is pretty fed up with the immigration policies that their leaders
Which is why they want to suppress the
Keir Starmer has built his brand on competence. He's the anti-Boris, the sensible suit in a sea of inflatable egos. But if competence means squeezing protesters into police vans and letting algorithms patrol our speech, then maybe we need a little less competence and a little more chaos. Musk will keep tweeting, Rogan will keep ranting, and somewhere in London, Starmer will keep nodding, smiling, and quietly drafting legislation to make sure no one claps too enthusiastically at a town hall. And this isn't just some niche Westminster nerd fight over clauses and committees. This matters. Because while Keir Starmer is out here turning free speech into a politely worded suggestion, the impact is spreading like bad Wi-Fi. For UK viewers, this isn't boring legalese. It's your protest getting kettled, your journalists getting gagged, your memes mysteriously vanishing, and your favourite comedians nervously checking if their punchlines will land them in a holding cell next to a Just Stop Oil protester with a megaphone glued to his forehead. And for the global crowd smugly sipping tea across the ocean, don't get too cosy. If the land of Shakespeare, satire and sarcasm is fumbling the freedom bag, what hope does anyone else have The UK is fast becoming the trial version of censorship software, and trust me, your country is already hovering over download and install.
Elon is holding Keir Starmer to account. He's not going to back down, no matter how much they threaten legal action. Elon will stand his ground because he is on a mission for free speech. That is why he took over Twitter. And I feel like we can sleep at night knowing that even if the UK government manages to get the likes of Meta to do what they say, Elon is going to stand up for us. He's going to do everything in his power to make sure that we still have a platform where we have a voice.
We're in the golden age of TikTok bans, AI-generated propaganda and news feeds curated by emotionally unstable algorithms. If now is the moment you decide to let your politicians quietly redefine harmful content, you might as well pre-stegi for your state-approved dictionary of acceptable opinions. Today it's misinformation, tomorrow it's misfeelings. That's exactly why Musk and Rogan's warning shots matter. They're not just making noise, they're the emergency klaxon before the digital curtain drops. You might find Musk's tweets unhinged and Rogan's rants too spicy for brunch, but both are dead on about this. When governments say they're just making things safer, hide your satire and run. Because if you keep ignoring the alarm, one day you'll wake up in a police van wearing fuzzy slippers, wondering how your Starmer in a tinfoil hat meme got flagged as a national threat. Two of the world's loudest, most unfiltered voices have stopped laughing and are now pointing squarely at the UK's crumbling free speech facade. Starmer may not tweet, but the eerie quiet around his policies is starting to sound like the prelude to a democracy unplugged. It's the kind of free speech dystopia that doesn't arrive with tanks but with spreadsheets.
Well, Elon Musk has had private discussions about how the British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, could be removed from power without an election. That bombshell revelation is in today's Financial Times. It marks the second time in the past month that the mercurial right-wing billionaire has attempted to influence the politics of a country he isn't a citizen of. Last month, he publicly endorsed the far-right Alternative for Germany party ahead of elections there next month. It's unlikely Musk will find any way he can push Starmer out of 10 Downing Street. The British PM's Labour Party has an enormous...
And two of the world's most unlikely allies just pulled back the curtain, not because they hate Britain, but because they can smell when something's rotting, and this time it isn't just the fish and chips. So while Starmer's out here trying to be the adult in the room, Musk and Rogan are pointing out that the adult has locked the door, swallowed the key, and is now insisting it's for your own good. Call it what you want: stability, safety, progress. Just don't call it freedom, because when the guy who builds rockets for Mars and the guy who eats elk heart for breakfast both agree you've gone too far, maybe, just maybe, it's time to put down the censorship pen and pick up a copy of the actual Human Rights Charter, or at the very least, log off before someone decides that sarcasm is a public safety threat. But hey, don't say it too loudly, you might get arrested.